taste that Ghost in the Shell left in my mouth last night. So, gonna watch Boss Baby. I hope it's cute, and let's go.
So mad.
The place is amazing.
Sure, I'm not really in.
Kevin Hart, Ed Helms, Thomas Middleditch, Nick Kroll.
Alright guys, so I saw the Boss Baby. I went to a very packed theater of course, little kids and families. And, you know, what can I say about this movie? This movie is based off the children's book by the same name. And we basically have this baby corporation, which it's actually kind of funny because they tickle the baby, and if it laughs, it goes to a family, and if it doesn't laugh, it works for the corporation, which is oddly kind of creative. Even if it's in the book, that's kind of creative. And we have Alec Baldwin, who plays the Boss Baby, who ends up being the boss, and he gets sent down to, you know, to Earth, and, well, they're basically like up, I don't know, but, he gets sent down to a family who then has this family has this kid, and then this kid just starts, like, seeing something suspicious about this baby, because his parents see him as a baby while he sees him as someone else, because he's wearing a suit and everything, and he finds something really suspicious about him. And till one night, he actually finds out he's like on a business call, and the reason why he's actually down here is to stop this corporation that is making these really cute puppies that really don't grow up, and it's really, these puppies are taking all the attention away from the babies. This is a very goofy concept, and I kind of like this concept. Of course, it's the type of concept that you could only make a animated movie out of, not a live action movie, but a animated movie. Now, when I heard that DreamWorks was making this movie, there was a lot of emotions going through my head, and it was just, I don't know, there was just something about DreamWorks making this movie that just kind of made me worried for DreamWorks' future films. For example, I mean, they made How to Train Your Dragon 2, which is a very serious film, and it's a DreamWorks film, and I just love this movie so much. They also made the Kung Fu Panda movies, which are also serious in some way, but, you know, are for families. But, like, DreamWorks has been really kiddie friendly. They're supposed to be family friendly, where it could be both something that kids and adults can enjoy, but it looks like now DreamWorks is just only making movies that only kids can enjoy. Look back at Trolls. Trolls, I found it to be a good movie. It was an okay movie, but there were some things in there for the adults, and there are some things in this movie that are for adults, but only like a few jokes. But for the most part, they really tried to appeal to kids, to like sell toys and Happy Meals and all that. When I saw the teaser trailer for this, I was like, okay, this could probably be okay. And then I saw that first trailer, and like the official trailer, and it kind of got me worried for both the movie and the studio. Alec Baldwin as the Boss Baby basically is Alec Baldwin just as Boss Baby, and it really works for me. It really worked for me. And people are going to say this a lot, and I'll say it too, but I just don't want to get too political. Boss Baby really reminds me of Trump, not only in like his appearance, but like in the way that he behaves. And it's kind of a coincidence that Alec Baldwin, who voices the Boss Baby in this movie, actually played and impersonated Donald Trump in the Saturday Night Live skit, and it's just really a coincidence, like a really good coincidence. And in some way, I guess you could fairly compare the Boss Baby to Donald Trump. And the voice of the Boss Baby really sounds like Donald Trump, but let's not get too political. But it really reminds me of Trump, and don't lie, you know, he reminds you of Trump too. Tim, the little kid, whoever voiced this kid, they really never said who voiced him. I thought he did really good. I'm glad that they casted a little kid as a little kid, and not like a adult as a little kid, like in Captain Underpants. And then the older Tim, who is the narrator, of the movie, who is voiced by Tobey Maguire, he did really good. And Lisa Kudrow and Jimmy Kimmel as both the parents. There were some times where you're like, they're just like, they barely have any like expression to like their voices, and it just sounds like they're just reading off the script normally, and they could really have improved and put a little bit like more emotion to like their dialogue. And Steve Buscemi as the villain really also worked for me, even though I wasn't a big fan of the villain, but we'll get to that in a second. The animation is very cartoony, but it's like very smooth, and it's rendered very well, and it does not at all look like a PS3 game or nothing like that. It actually looks like an animated film, and it's just very beautiful animation. There was some humor here that was mostly intended for the kids because it's like poop and fart jokes, but there are some jokes that actually kind of like appealed to like older audiences, and some of the humor that actually appealed to older audiences was actually kind of funny. Not trying to spoil anything. It's not really a spoiler. There's this one scene where the boss baby's running away from Tim, and he's all naked and all, and they're just showing his butt, and then he just like turns around and like runs away, and they censor his penis, and it's just so funny. And I really like to think about the imagination that Tim has, and it starts off like that with Tim's imagination, and he has a very good imagination, I'll say, and it really makes the movie colorful. But there are some times where they're just overusing that aspect of Tim's imagination in this movie, where sometimes it's just like kind of unneeded sometimes, or really distracting. There are some scenes that are really entertaining to watch, but they just feel unneeded sometimes, and some characters that really don't feel like they need to be there at all. And the villain in this movie, it's the most over-the-top DreamWorks villain I have ever seen in a DreamWorks film, DreamWorks animated film. And him, like the villain, voiced by Steve Buscemi, I thought he did fine, but the villain just has like these weird motivations on why he wants to do this. It's just kind of like, I don't know, I just didn't feel his villain. The villain of this movie really made this movie go a bit downhill for me, and I just wasn't a big fan of the villain in this movie. He was just that really cartoony animated villain that just has like his secret agenda. He's like, he's just, I don't know, he was kind of weird. Just that certain aspect of the film just didn't really work for me that much. I actually had more fun watching the whole thing about the family and the boss baby and Tim bonding together, rather than just the whole thing with the villain. It's just, those things were just much better. This just has that same old formula that a ton of movies, animated movies, use nowadays, where to a point where it's kind of really cliche, where it's like that thing like where the main character doesn't like the secondary character, and they don't like each other at all, and then they just start bonding and they start liking each other. That formula was used in Toy Story, and I guess it was one of the first of its kind to use that formula, and where it wasn't really cliche. But then more animated movies like Secret Life of Pets used it, and it just starts to become really predictable. And it's a good formula, and it's like a good thing to like an animated movie, and it really shows like the message of how if you work with a certain person, you might actually grow up to like them. It's like a good message, but it's just being used way too much nowadays. Overall, this movie is actually kind of good, and it's harmless. It's not really the piece of shit that I was expecting for this movie to be. It's definitely not DreamWorks at its best. It's one of DreamWorks' weaker films, but I think it's an okay movie. It's a acceptable movie for what it is. Take your kids; they're gonna have the time of their lives. I know the kids in my theaters were having the time of their lives watching Boss Baby, because overall, watching babies do just silly stuff really is kind of funny and entertaining to watch. And even if you don't watch this movie in like full price, definitely go to like a cheap matinee, or it wouldn't hurt to wait for Redbox either. It'd make a good rental, definitely. So that's why I'm gonna mix two of my rating systems and say that you should netbox it, meaning that you could Netflix it or Redbox it, or you could go to a cheap matinee, and that's why I'm gonna give The Boss Baby a B-. If you guys seen Beauty and everyone saw Beauty and the Beast because it's almost at $1 billion, see this movie. Thank you very much for watching, and like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later for my next movie day. Bye.